He is Alex Dunlap. I'm the Podfather. This is Content Kings, and we have a lot to talk about. We are going to be talking about Todd McShay and Tet McMillan. We're going to be talking about sleeper running backs to take in dynasty rookie drafts. We're going to be talking about my current health. We're going to be talking about social media and potential pivots from fantasy football to politics on social media and how we feel about that and what we're seeing with that. So there's a lot to talk about. And I guess we'll start with the Huddle Report. That is the best place to start. The Huddle Report is the gold standard for judging NFL draft analysis, NFL mock draft scoring. They do a great job over at the Huddle Report. I am on their roster. People have a hard time getting approved to be a Huddle Report analyst to submit their mocks and their big boards because Player Profiler is so well regarded in the industry. I was able to get registered in the contest in less than an hour. Which felt really good. Just like we had an incredible setup at the Super Bowl. We've have an incredible setup at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine. For whatever reason, the NFL really respects Player Profiler. We've seen photos of GMs that have Player Profiler pulled up on their computers. So there's something there that I think the NFL appreciates Player Profiler, and we appreciate them very much, and the Huddle Report does a great job. I submitted at the final hour a first-round mock, and I submitted my big board. That was the Player Profiler big board. And this was because we sadly lost Theo Greminger. He went to Fantasy Points, and he wasn't able to go to the draft house for the draft coverage, and he wasn't able to really participate in the final leg of the NFL draft analysis. And I have big news. I just had a call with Maddie Kiwoom, and Maddie Kiwoom is going to be back with Player Profiler. Maddie Kiwoom is going to be doing our draft analysis. That's right. We're going to be sending him to the Senior Bowl. We're going to be sending him to the Combine. He's going to be...
Dang, dude, we get Maddie Kiwoom back next year. All right,
He's
dude.
back!
Yeah, dude.
Maddie's back.
You're going to send him to stay with me and Cody, right?
I want to go back to the Senior Bowl, too. I want it to be me and Maddie at the Senior Bowl with you guys. That's what I want in my ideal world. Trust me. This is what I want this very badly. I love ball. I love NFL draft. I love rookies. I love fantasy football. And part of the reason why we launched Fast Draft is so that I could lock in this future as a person who is analyzing football, talking football, and immersed in it. And it sounds counterintuitive, like, oh, you added a lot of extra work. You're not going to be able to do as many podcasts. Last time I checked, I've been podcasting just as much since we launched Fast Draft as I was previously, especially in recent weeks and months. I've been dialing up the podcasting, and because this is what I want to be doing. And certainly part of it is promoting Fast Draft, and more of you that sign up on Fast Draft with code PODFATHER, the more that it helps to validate us, and then we can continue to propel that app forward, and then we can do more fundraising, and then we can invest more in Player Profiler and more in Fast Draft, and it becomes this positive feedback loop. So that is all the reason to sign up on Fast Draft with code PODFATHER. You get a $50 deposit match when you do that. And then also tell your friends about it. We are about to roll out an invite a friend feature where if your friend signs up, when you're in a draft room, you can invite a friend and they'll get an alert to sign up. And then you get bonus bucks, bonus Fast Draft cash to draft even more. So there's a lot going on with that. But this is all to say I'm very happy that Maddie Kiwoom has decided to rejoin us. This is not the first time. This is not the last time that an analyst was participating with us in all of our activities, whether it be the NFL draft extravaganza, was publishing articles, hosting podcasts, all those things, decided to do something else, and then came back and worked with us in some capacity. But Maddie's going to be working at a same or greater capacity that he was previously, which is exciting. And as you know,
Is
Cody
it just going to
Carpentier
start in the
works
draft
with
season?
both Roster Watch and Player Profiler, which is also exciting. And we love having Cody back.
So what? Like, yeah. So Cody's doing the Sonic Truth show again, or I guess the Sonic Truth show now. Um, and then Maddie. So is he gonna like? Is he only coming on for draft season, or is he gonna do stuff during the regular season too, or like is he just gonna be your draft analyst?
He is going to be primarily our draft analyst, but he's going to be doing some fantasy football. Particularly, he likes to do the game plan show where he gets people ready for Sunday, tells people the
Okay.
sleeper players to pick up and stash in the back of their rosters on Saturday. Some last minute ads, drops, trades that can be done. He does a great job with that show. He enjoys it very much. He wants to continue to do it because he is very much still immersed in the world of fantasy football. But he's also incredible with the NFL draft. He's never been to the Senior Bowl. I'm committed to getting him to the Senior Bowl. And that's what I told him. I said, hey, man, I'm committed to getting you to the Senior Bowl. I want you to be a big part of this whole thing.
Maddie's never been to Senior Bowl. He's been to the Combine.
He's never been to the Senior Bowl. Different things have come up where he had some sick children. Some things have happened where he was supposed to go to the Senior Bowl. He never went. And he is just, he has the voice. He has the look. He has the personality. He's such a positive guy. He's so effervescent with his personality. I'm so thankful that he's back and that we're just continuing to build strength on strength here at Player Profiler. And next year, he'll be doing the huddle report for us. And hopefully he'll be scoring high. But I submitted this last minute because I was like, listen, we're in this netherworld where Theo has been off-boarded and we don't have anyone for this particular month of time to analyze the draft and post a big board. I need to go do some quick research, and I need to, I sat down and Cody and I did a big-time crash course at the draft house and got everything updated. And as it turns out, I finished 4th in the big board, tied with Mel Kiper, ahead of a lot of other people.
You finished 4th? What did you get, like an 86 or something?
I think that's what I got. Yeah, something like that.
Oh.
And it was it was like a pretty significant tie for 4th. I want to say 8 to 10 people were tied for 4th.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're watching Mel Kiper on TV as a kid and then you submit your first big board ever and you tie him in 2025, it's a pretty cool feeling. It's a pretty cool feeling. And, beat Daniel Jeremiah and many others, and also beat you and Cody in the first round mock competition.
It didn't take much to beat me this year, Matt. I'm not sure you want to be bragging about beating me. There's probably better people who had better mocks than I did that you say you did better.
Sure.
But it was a terrible. I had a lot of the right ideas in mind, a lot of the right positions and stuff. Just the wrong dudes going. You know what I mean? Like instead of Kenneth Grant, it's Walter Nolan, or you know what I'm saying? Instead of Tyler Warren, it's Colston Loveland. It's like you get too many of those, and you're just eventually things just stack up to where it's like, well, everybody that I've already have going off the board, you know what I mean? It's like this next spot coming up is already dead, right? So it was like you had a lot of good luck. You had the best luck with the Atlanta Falcons doing the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Right?
I mean, that was so lucky to have
James
Pierce going to
15.
Atlanta at 15 and then for them to trade back in and take Pierce later. Come on.
Yeah, but you still got the points for it. Even though you said he's going there at 15, it's like it doesn't matter. You still get the points for getting that match. I think you ran super pure, man. So congratulations on that. What pissed me off the worst this year was that. So I've been doing this for decades. Or over a decade, I should say, not multiple decades. But so for me, it's like there's a rolling 5-year average for the big leaderboard, and so I was still holding on to this monster like 51 or 52 score from the year of the Clyde Edwards-Helaire draft. I'll never forget it. I finished in second place due to that stupid last pick, wherever some dude picked Clyde to go to the Chiefs. I forgot who I had going to the Chiefs, but he ended up edging me by 1 point.
Oh,
And so but still, it was a monster score. And so they take your rolling 5-year average. And this last year was my last year that I was still holding on to that awesome score, right?
Mm.
I can't believe it's been that long since Clyde and JT and your whole dust up with Nate Liss and all the rest. But that it's like the so I went from like out of whatever 85 people that are qualified for at least 5-year rolling average, I went from like 23rd place. I dropped to like 60th just because I lost that big score. So it was like a double whammy for me this year in the huddle report. Live and learn. I'll just, I need to have a big year next year. I need to not let myself get swindled at the end by just stupid last minute. It's the same thing. It's like in fantasy football when you get some stupid report where they say there's going to be bad weather in Miami and like, so you bench Tyreek Hill. It's just like, I mean, it's just like, why did I ever, I had him in my lineup all week until I heard this dumb report from some weather guy, fantasy WX on Twitter, who I've never even heard of before. He's telling me there could be 40-mile-per-hour gusts. And I just changed everything. It's just stupid.
I was snookered by Todd McShay, though. I mean, I had Todd McShay convinced me that the NFL was going to be out on Tet McMillan.
I can explain exactly what happened to you.
What happened with so Todd McShay has Tet McMillan rated as his 50th player on his big board, and we had him somewhere in I don't know, between 8 and 12, and it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense that he would push him all the way down. And the explanation he gave was that he gave up on routes and he was weak at the catch point. And that was his assessment. And that's what he was going with. And if he's saying that, I don't think that he is just crafting all of these takes out of the air. I think most of these analysts that are super plugged in, they're doing a lot of taking what NFL teams are telling them and then crafting a take around that, as well as doing their own film analysis. Of course, they do their own film analysis, but it's very much informed by what scouts are saying. And so I was super conflicted about Tet, thinking, well, this guy looks like the best prospect in the class. But if all these scouts are implicitly saying to McShay, oh, we're not sold on Ted, he's a second-round receiver, he's going to go where DK Metcalf went, then okay. Or even T. Higgins, like we've seen really good receivers that were premium prospects fall to the second round. So I was like, okay, I'll let him go out of the second. Let him go into the second round.
Yeah, your logic just took a major jump and just went completely off the rails. Like, so what it is, what you have to understand about McShay this year is he's had a year off from the NFL draft, and he got his job this year at the Ringer, where they started the McShay show. They started it back in October, right? They got a little bit of a late start. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And whenever they did, it was kind of a disorganized show, and it was kind of one of the things that endeared me to it whenever it first came back on, because I've been dying to get Todd McShay back, right?
I like him a lot. That's the thing, is I like him. I respect him, and I respect that the NFL respects him.
But you have to understand this. Like this was a major. As happy as I was to get McShay back, I've always been a giant fan of his. During the time that he was at ESPN. Now he has his own show with The Ringer, and he's completely untethered and unchained with the way that he can do things. And so by you using him as one of your major resources in sort of this last minute cram fest, right, to make sure that you get kind of some expert seasoning into your own thoughts for what you're going to be doing for your big board. Like, what you have to understand about McShay, what he's explained through this process, is he's like, dude, I am done doing this stuff where I worry about underneath. I've been unshackled from the stuff where it's like underneath me on the ticker the whole time. It's going to say McShay's best available. And if it's going to, like, if somebody's way off, or if I have somebody ranked as my 50th player and they end up going in the top 10, and like, I'm not going to worry about looking dumb anymore. I'm here to tell you guys, walk you through every step of my process. And where he ended up on Tet, he said all the time, he was the one who originally said that Tet could go 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But he's like, that's well within the realm of possibility that the Jags could take him at 5, because I'm getting word that they want to take an offensive playmaker. And could it be Ashton Genty? Could it be Ted McMillan? We saw what it was. Is it was a trade up to get Travis Hunter, right? But so he was sniffing. He was getting, like you said, he was getting the right signals, getting the right stuff. But as far as his actual product that he put out for his subscribers, and he has the McShay report where you pay to subscribe, right? He was saying the whole time, he's like, I think Tet is basically overrated compared to what the league thinks about him. And so I don't care anymore. I'm doing my big board as I see things. McShay doesn't like Tet. He just doesn't like him, right? But he does admit that the league likes him. You know what I mean?
So if I had heard that podcast, I would not have. Okay.
Yeah, or if you just would have,
I would have come to a different conclusion had I heard that podcast. This is the problem with doing this in an hour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just a little bit of a cram. You kind of miss out on a couple of things in nuance, but that's what happened with Ted McMillan. And you know what? Ever since the draft, Cody and I have kind of, I mean, we do shows every day, multiple, and it's like whenever we, so we obviously have talked a lot about Ted, and I mean, Cody's really come around on the guy as far as just his situation in Carolina. I haven't come around in the same way that he has, but I do, man. It is a pretty good outlay for him, isn't it? He truly is going to get a ton of targets, right?
Oh, it's incredible for him. This is the perfect situation. I mean, he has a pocket passing quarterback, so there's not a big risk of Bryce Young siphoning dropbacks out of the offense and turning them into QB rushes.
Well, I hope not.
No, that's a risk with a lot of quarterbacks, right? There's a lot of quarterbacks, the mobile quarterbacks. You need to discount the volume a little bit because the dropbacks end up turning into rushes, and a lot of those mobile quarterbacks, they can only support one superstar fantasy receiver. Where T. Higgins is fine as long as he has Joe Burrow, and in this case, for this year, Travis Hunter is fine because he has Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be doing too much running, so there'll be plenty of volume, plenty of pass attempts to feed both Hunter and Thomas. No problem. In Carolina, you have the corpse of Adam Thielen. He's going to be out there maybe if he makes the team, right?
Oh, I think he'll make the team.
I think he'll make the team. I'm pretty sure he'll make the team, but he's almost 35 now. And he's had a lot of lower body injuries, so we'll see how Thielen works. He's going to be at least, a functional slot receiver. So we have the bare minimum functional slot receiver, and you have a rising sleeper receiver who really sees that Z receiver job, and he's got speed and he's got dynamism, and it's the perfect guy to play in tandem with Adam Thielen on the outside is Jalen Coker. Then the question is, how quickly can Tet McMillan marginalize Xavier Liggett? And I think he can do it in a week. I think within a week of seeing rep after rep and what McMillan can do on any given target and what Liggett can do on any given target, that Liggett is going to be the odd man out. I think when the season starts, Liggett's going to be up and like, hey, I thought I'd at least be in 3 receiver sets.
I was the first round.
Hey man, you're not better than Coker. Coker is good, and you're sure as hell not better than Tet McMillan. Tet McMillan is like Liggett, but better in every way, including his ability to process information, learn the playbook. That's always been a challenge, according to reports for Liggett. So there's a lot to like when you have a guy that's the clear number one option. And even if you go down the board of who are the running backs commanding targets, who are the tight ends commanding targets, no one is scary. There's no threat. This guy is going to be getting absolutely fed 150 targets in his range of outcomes. And if he can actually deliver yards after the catch on those targets, woo, baby. I mean, whoa, baby. It's going to be very difficult for any of these running backs to compete with Tet McMillan this year. We're talking about Genty, and then it's a conversation, right? If you're drafting on Fast Draft, it's Genty, and then it's a conversation about who you're going to take at the 102. Probably Cam Ward is the safe pick at the 102. And then at the 103, Tet McMillan is very much in play. He's very much in play. There's a case for Trevion Henderson having that dynamism and the big step forward that we think that Drake May is going to take this year, and adding more touchdown equity to the range of outcomes for Henderson. That's cool. Hampton's going to the nuts situation with a team that's invested the most in the offensive line in the NFL draft over the last 5 years. That's
he's
cool.
Going to a committee. He's good, right. But, I think this is the difference between.
But they are going to feed Najee Harris 200 carries. We know that is going to happen. So when you start working it out and thinking about, okay, RJ Harvey, what is he? Okay, he was still ultimately, RJ Harvey was a late second rounder. He is going to take some time to fully mature as an NFL running back. Even though he's 24 years old, he still has work to do in pass protection. He has work to do out of the backfield, especially in passing situations. I think RJ Harvey will underwhelm in the early weeks of the season. So there's a strong case that just on raw fantasy points, once you get past Genty and Ward in Superflex and in this Origins format on Fast Draft, it's going to be Tet McMillan.
No, that's not right. Because here's the thing: is that Fast Draft. This is why Fast Draft is a fundamentally different game, right? Fast Draft the Fast Draft Origins is its own game. We can't you can't. There's parallels. It's like it's close to being, it's close to being like a best ball kind of dynasty thing, but it's not dynasty. It's a seasonal draft, right?
Correct.
So it's like whenever there's no way I take Hampton at the 102 in Fast Draft. I consider him at the 102 in Dynasty though, because I think in 2026 he becomes Omarion Hampton, but except in the NFL, right? That does me no good in Fast Draft, right? If I just get the ramp up period to becoming the NFL version of Omarion Hampton, the same one that we saw at UNC, right? The dominant, absolute alpha monster.
Harris is getting 200 carries. Harris is getting 200 carries. Harris is getting 200 carries. And in that context, if you're playing for this year, I think it's an interesting discussion about Hampton or Henderson.
Henderson for this year? Oh gosh. To me, it's like, I mean,
but wait a second. So you have Herbert and May. They're actually pretty similar. Herbert has the track record. Hampton has the better offensive line in Los Angeles. One has Stevenson, who is going to command 100+ carries.
God, dude, they just got Travion, dude. He renders Ramondre useless. Are you kidding me?
This guy's the one. Sure, there are people that are big Chargers fans that are like, well, Hampton just rendered Harris useless. Who was better last year, Harris or Stevenson? Stevenson. Stevenson was a more efficient player. Stevenson's better in the passing game.
I don't know, but Najee never fumbles. He always rushes for 1,000 yards. I mean, it's like apples and oranges, kind of.
Well, that is an interesting point. The one area where you have a new regime coming in New England, and they are going to emphasize ball security. That's just what the Vrabel regime is going to emphasize. Yep. And the Harbaugh regime was already there, and they chose to go sign Najee Harris, whereas Vrabel never asked for Ramondre Stevenson. So I think your case is Stevenson's is not going to get the same kind of volume that Harris is going to get, which is going to push more volume, more bell cow touches to Henderson. So it's a pretty easy pick, Henderson over Hampton.
Yeah, I mean, but only in Fast Draft or like in Origins. In Dynasty, I think I'm still taking Hampton. I am. Like, you put a gun to my. I hate making the decision. I truly like, just if I can't have the 101, I kind of like having anything to the 105 or 106 if you want to include Tet McMillan in there. But I like having, if I can trade back to know that I can get. And again, this is for Superflex Dynasty, but I think that this is also for Fast Draft. If I know I can get Ashton Genty, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Omarion Hampton, Travion, or Tet, right? Then like the 106, I'd rather just sit at the 106 and see which one of those guys falls to me.
Well, that's the dream, right? That's the
Yeah.
dream pick in a super flex draft, a rookie super flex draft. If you're at the 106, you can't lose.
No, it feels great because then what happens next is you get to the 107 and all of a sudden you feel like, okay, well, this is a tier break. It's not a terrible tier break, but it's like 107. It's just like Cody and I were both, like as far as our exposures to RJ Harvey, it's like it was absurd. I forgot we pulled it up at the draft house. It was
Over 50% for both of you.
Yeah, and so, but we're getting in the late second round, early third. Now you're gonna. You'll have to excuse a tiny bit of sticker shock that I have to be considering him at the 107. Although I do kind of consider him there. I consider Caleb Johnson there. But that does feel like a little bit of a. Even though I love both those guys' situations, I like drafting them. It just kind of feels a little bit expensive, and so it feels like that tier break does come in Superflex at the 107. And I think that's probably where a lot of, would you say that most super flex leagues are tight end premium?
Yeah, most super flex leagues are tight end premium. That's right. So if I were to activate super flex and tight end premium on the player profiler dynasty rankings in our dynasty deluxe package, then yeah, it's a very clear tier break. Like you want the 106. If you can somehow engineer your draft, if you haven't drafted yet, your rookie drafts, you get the 106, trading back or trading up to the 106, get the 106 somehow, some way. That is the best pick. And then there is a tier break down to the 110, where at the 110, you're guaranteed to have either Warren, Johnson, Harvey, or Judkins. And then there's receivers after that. Then it's Golden, Buka.
I forgot to mention Judkins in that same. Of course, it's Judkins, Harvey, Johnson, or the next ones up. I forgot to mention Judkins.
Correct. And then Golden landed very well.
Golden too, right?
Yeah, Golden is in there. You could argue it's really a tier break from there's the 101, and then there's the 106, and then there's the 111 with Matthew Golden, where Harvey or Golden, it's pretty close.
Well, hey, here's something that Cody and I kind of argue over a little bit. I'm not going to tell you whose side I'm on. Do you feel like Jackson Dart belongs in that bucket?
He's the next tier down. We have Dart in the next tier down of Igbuka, Dart, Loveland. That there's a tier there.
Okay, fair enough. So you guys have Loveland below Warren.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Loveland's not in a good situation at all.
Yeah, I mean, Warren's kind of not either.
No, Warren's not either, but he's still Warren, right? So
do you think
it would be a conversation, right? It would be a conversation if one of them had landed well. Then we can have a conversation. I'm happy to have that conversation. But one of them didn't land well. They both landed horribly.
Yeah,
Do you like the Santana Moss comp on Player Profiler for Matthew Golden?
Oh gosh, I've never thought about that. I think it's fantastic. That's a great comp. I wish I would have come up with it. That's very good. Yeah,
but it's not. Here's the thing. This is not a style comp. This is not like someone had an aha moment in the shower comp. This is like these guys have a same 40 time. These guys had similar college production at a similar like elite level program. These guys have similar height and weight. Like they're very similar players, similar draft capital, similar everything.
No, I totally buy it, man. I mean, it's I've always kind of thought of him as a Diggs, and I've always thought of Diggs as kind of a Santana Moss like player. And you think about Santana Moss, and you think about just not just the speed and the over the top ability, but you think about his ability to just contort his body to make those sort of those gritty passes on the sidelines for big first downs and stuff like that. Chain mover. It's like that's a really good comp. And it's cool that it like you said, it's just the analytics alone that got you there. Although, don't think we have too many testing analytics for Matt. Did Matt even do anything besides run a 40?
No.
He came to the combine.
You know who else did nothing besides the 40? Santana Moss.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I should have known he was going to run fast as can be, because you got the other two Texas players in Jaden Blue and Isaiah Bond getting up there and saying that they're going to break Worthy's record, and they're saying, we're gonna run a 4.19, all this stuff like that. Whereas Matthew Golden gets up there, I'm like, Matt, are you going to test? And he's like, I'm just running the 40, and then I should have just known, like, that guy that was being quiet about it and saying he's just going to run the 40 and he's not, it's like, he's not. I should have known that Matt was the one that was about to, like, but you don't really see it on tape as much. So it would have been, no one could have ever predicted a 4.29 or whatever it was. But yeah, it should have been a little bit of a tell there at the podium.
Texas went into the season thinking Isaiah Bond was the guy, and they had this brand new transfer in Matthew Golden, who didn't come from the elite program that Bond did, came from Houston. And so Bond gets preference. Bond was the guy they were recruiting hardest. And as the
Bond
season
gets
plays
$900K, Golden gets $200K
in NIL money.
And yeah, from the collective, right?
Correct. And as the season plays out in practice, consistently Matthew Golden making more plays, and he just inched his way up, more snaps, running more routes. So when you look at a stat like Dominator or any counting stat, Matthew Golden can't possibly be as impressive, as productive if he's not running the routes, if he's not out there, because he's still in the process of earning the role. And then as soon as he fully earns the role, the college football playoffs are here, and he's dynamite in the college football playoffs, and all the scouts are like, you're the whole package, dude. And then you should go into the draft. You're gonna if you can run a sub 4.40, you're going first round. He's like, well, I can definitely do that. And they're like, well, you're first round. He's like, okay, then I'm going first round. And then we never get a chance.
Yeah.
We never get a chance to see full season of Matthew Golden in a featured role in college where he's healthy. And so that's why, like, he's not the producer that McMillan was, but he's still the second or third best now that Travis Hunter is a confirmed full-time receiver in Jacksonville. Now Golden is the locked-in third best wide receiver in this class for fantasy football, and that's why.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you could say, just as a pure receiver and as a pure prospect, I mean, just full transparency, I had Golden ranked ahead of Ted. I had Ted at 2, I had Golden at 1. But it's like, you have to adjust for the situations. And I think the situation that Ted fell to is better than what Golden fell to. Although Golden, I mean, it's like, it's not bad.
It's a good situation.
It's
too bad that Jordan Love really flamed out in the second half, and they decided just to go super run heavy in Green Bay.
He's going to be fine, though, right?
I don't know if he's going to be fine. I think there's a Jordan Love question mark that is not as discussed as the target competition. I'm more worried about Jordan Love and the direction of the offense than I am the target competition. It's like they only have one good receiver there, and that's Jaden Reed. So if they only have one other good receiver, what do I care about target competition from Wicks and Dobbs and guys that are not even in the same class? Like, they're not in the same class. Unless you're in the same class of player, get out of here with your late round Dontavian Wicks. Remember Dontavian Wicks at the Senior Bowl?
Just barely.
Barely.
Yeah.
Barely. And in that Senior Bowl, Jaden Reed dominated. Absolutely dominated. Wicks and Jonathan Mingo were about equivalent in terms of the plays they were making, play in, play out. And they also had pretty equivalent production in college, Mingo and Wicks. It's just this idea that I'm worried about Wicks or I'm worried about Dobbs, and that's, holding back my Matthew Golden projection. Get out of here, man. So, yeah, I'm happy to be out in front on Matthew Golden now, knowing how his production needs to be contextualized, and that the Packers in particular, that team, There are certain teams, Packers, Steelers, they invest in a receiver. You feel a little bit better about it than one of these teams that has a lot of busts on their resume. Like if Carolina had drafted Matthew Golden and Tet had somehow gone to Green Bay, I wouldn't feel as good about it. Like it's like with Tet, his profile is so bulletproof that you feel like, okay, this is Carolina just finding their way to the right prospect, regardless of what their process was. Right, a broken clock is right twice a day. With Tet McMillan going to Carolina, that's how I feel. But if it were Golden, I wouldn't be saying that. If it were Golden, I'd be like, okay, this is classic Carolina, focusing on the wrong details.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
So
yeah,
that's what I do think.
And the thing with also if Tet were to go to, honestly, Tet is the more kind of Brian Gutekunst-ish type. It's kind of more his type.
Yeah,
likes the big, long, tall guys, and we're not gonna have any Christian Watson. They saw that we might not even have him. Period next year. They said the earliest he'll be back was week 8. So it's like, but you think about them drafting him, drafting Wicks, drafting Dobbs. It's like they're all different than Tet, but they're all he likes drafting these big dudes, and it's just crazy that Cody had the stat, but it was like it's the first round receiver that the Packers have drafted since 2002. I think it was Javon Walker.
Oh yeah.
So it's obvious. It's obvious they like Golden, but if historically speaking, he's like it's kind of not the player archetype that they generally draft, and not the type of draft capital that they like giving up for these guys.
They also don't generally host the draft.
Yeah,
it was Live Aid, and to announce a guard there just would not have moved the needle with the crowd the way announcing a dynamic receiver who just looks the part, looks super fresh coming out there. I mean, it was the perfect situation.
Yeah, he had a cool outfit.
Everything was great. Everything was just well done, presentation-wise. That's probably not part of their process when they're submitting their card or who they're going to be picking, but the organization does feel some obligation to put on a good show because the draft is in Green Bay. And maybe that helped to nudge them towards Golden, and ultimately that was the right decision for them. I also think this is good for Jayden Reed in that he can run a few more shallower routes, and I think that's going to be good for him and good for his volume. So I think this is potentially good news for Jayden Reed. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's like I don't think that Travis Hunter going to Jacksonville is bad for Brian Thomas, and I don't really think that this Golden pick is that bad for Jayden Reed because, again, the receivers behind them are simply not impressive. The one receiver that was completely nuked by – there's only one receiver. Again, not Jalen Coker, not Brian Thomas, not Jayden Reed. One receiver was completely nuked by the NFL draft, and that was Xavier Legette. And that was just Carolina admitting that they made a mistake, which we all called at the time. Remember, they drafted him over Ladd McConkey. This is some of these picks where these pick juxtapositions that you could put. It's just wow. In hindsight, it looks worse and worse and worse. Oof.
I mean, dude, at least they're not. What is that thing? So what's the thing where you keep throwing money into something that's a lost cause just because sunk cost fallacy?
Well, they didn't fall for it. Yeah, it's good. That's good. Yeah. And before we move on to the next topic, there's a lot to talk about here. Let's recap. We need to talk about sleeper running backs and their landing spots. Guys like Tootin, Taj Brooks, Monangai. There's news surfacing about Chubb is linked to the Chicago Bears. We should talk about that. We need to talk about social media and how we handle social media activity with our businesses. This is an important topic that has been on the list for us to talk about for months, and now is a great time to talk about it. And so we'll get into all that. But first, there's a contest on Fast Draft that is not as popular as some of these other contests, but I think it's one that I would be the most interested in if I were able to play, and that's called D-Up, because I've always been thinking about how do we get people engaged with defense in fantasy football, because it's half of the sport, right? Half of the game is plays made on defense. Most of the plays made in the Super Bowl were on the defensive side of the ball. And yet no one was getting excited for fantasy football when Carter would sack the quarterback, right? So a Jalen Carter sack of Patrick Mahomes should have been getting people fired up that weren't Eagles fans, just fantasy fans. So that's the way the world should work. But it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. But now with the D-Up game that we've created, this all defense game, this is a game that everyone can play, not just IDP passionate people, right? I get it. Like the IDP guys are the most passionate out there, but we can all play and have success with this game. So check it. Here's a little bit more about it. I am proud to announce that Fast Draft now has an all-defense game called D-Up. That's right, fans of IDP finally have a real money best ball game that they can play. No more manually setting up leagues every time you want to do a draft. No. Now you can play for 10 grand, 2,000 to first. Could draft up to 30 teams, all defense. And the best part, balanced scoring, tackles for loss, pass breakups. It all factors in. Just draft 6 defensive players, top 4 into your lineup every week. It's that easy. It's so easy that this isn't just for IDP people. If you love the NFL, then you'll love this game. And for the first time with Fast Draft, you can sweat both sides of the ball on Sunday. So use your host's promo code to get a $25 deposit match, and you'll love this D-Up contest because it's about time we got one. It's a $50 deposit match with code PODFATHER. Code PODFATHER, a $50 deposit match now. That's right. So, Alex, sleepers at the running back position, there's a lot of them. If I told you that in my first Dynasty rookie draft, Superflex, my positional cadence was Tet McMillan and then 4 running backs, how would you feel about that? Would you think that's
good for you? It's like I'm looking at this one that I just did and that started before the NFL draft, and then it got paused. And I was looking at it, I was doing the drafting earlier, and it's like I wasn't in a position to. I've never been in a position to really take a wide receiver, and so this draft is going at the 109 Quinshon Judkins, at the 209 RJ Harvey, at the 309 Brashard Smith, and at the 409 Jarquez Hunter.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like it's just been all runners.
Oh,
you know
God.
what I mean? But yeah, I do think it's nice if you can get Hunter or Tet or maybe a Golden if you're there towards the back end. But like I don't see there've been look.
After Golden, I'm not interested. I am not interested in receivers after Golden. I was interested in the Iowa State guys, but now they landed on the same team.
Yeah, and
they're essentially canceling out each other's like probability of breaking out. It's so annoying how they're serving to nullify each other on the same team, because we know Nico Collins is one of the most efficient receivers in the league. So it's not great. I know that still one of them it can break out, will break out. I just don't know which one it is, and for where you have to put your chips, a little too expensive for me.
I've found myself at times being like, you know what? Because there are guys I like, you know, that seem to fall. Like earlier today, I was, there was actually, this was yesterday. There was one thing yesterday in this area that has to do with running backs, and it was a Jarquez Hunter, Taj Brooks, issue that I was having, and I was really going back and forth about who I liked better in that whole situation.
What?
But then, yeah,
you were going back and forth on that?
Yeah, I think that, I can explain why. Like
Okay,
I
I'm
just
interested in hearing why, because I think it's a pretty clear pick. But go ahead.
okay. Well, with Jarquez Hunter, I think I love him as a talent, and I think that he's really, um, like we talked about at the draft house. I think he's just a really good professional runner. He's a problem to deal with. From an SEC coaching perspective, everybody always just talked about what a pain this guy is. It's like, gosh, you got to know where he is on every play, all this stuff. And I usually take that into account whenever opposing head coaches consistently talk about one dude just being a problem to game plan for. And when you just look at how he tests well, like does everything really well, the situation he goes to though, they did draft Blake Corum last year, and then on the other side of that, I was thinking, okay, Kyron Williams, I haven't heard a peep. I've seen neither pied nor hair of any more talk about Les Snead saying that they're going to pick up his fifth year or not pick up his fifth year option. Give him an extension as he's due to be an unrestricted free agent after this season, right? So I'm like, he's probably gone. And if we're being honest with ourselves about Blake Corum, a lot of the stuff we really loved about his tape was from the 2023. Was last year 2024? From the 2022 season, pre ACL, right? And then he kind of had, even his statistical numbers have not been the same since then. I'm starting to think, okay, well, is Blake Corum a little bit cooked? Because if he is,
no, you're not cooked from an ACL tear. When was the last time a guy tore his ACL and was cooked? Let him have another year to recover and get back to full strength. This is the year to evaluate Blake Corum, and you can evaluate him in camp. You can evaluate him in the preseason early and make a decision, knowing that it's very unlikely that they're going to bring back Williams. Then, okay, wow, this is interesting. Maybe you could get Hunter in trade around week 4 or 5, depending on what you're seeing. If you're starting to see him get some touches that you would have assumed would go to Blake Corum, and suddenly they're giving those touches to Hunter, you can be very early in going out and acquiring Hunter at that point.
Yeah. And then, obviously that's tricky, right? And then, but with Cincinnati, I just feel like we know it's a good offense. We know that the running back in that offense is one that is going to be scoring. We know that they've said, dude, they have 48% of their salary cap tied up in 3 players at this point. They've said they've mentioned specifically guys like Chase Brown, Amarius Mims, these types of players. Duke Tobin does when saying we're going to need to rely on these guys that we have on these cheap contracts that have been good to continue coming through for us, and we're going to have to draft well, and we're going to, like they need guys who are on these cheap deals, right? And so bringing back Chase Brown and depending on him is something. It's not just something that is part of their plan. It's kind of a necessity to be able to just stay under the salary cap, right? And so I do think though that Taj Brooks is really good. He's effective. He's a good runner. He's a bowling ball. I think he presents a good kind of yin and yang to Chase Brown. If Chase Brown were unable to stay healthy, you feel like that it's like if Kyron Williams was unable to stay healthy, Jarquez Hunter, it's like you still have a little bit of a Blake Corum, issue. I'm not sure you're going to have that.
It's not a little bit of an issue. Blake Corum is a major issue.
Right. Okay. And then the other thing is we don't know whether the Bengals defense is going to even be any better. There's going to be a bunch of back and forth stuff, man. A lot of scoring opportunities.
Shootouts
so
core.
So
you have to love Taj Brooks. I need to get Taj Brooks in every draft. Startup, rookie draft, even redraft, best ball, everything. Every format, everything, every league. Taj Brooks every time. The guy had 2 straight 1,500-yard rushing seasons, 2 straight double-digit touchdown seasons in college, 3 straight 25-plus catch seasons.
He's a workhorse. He's a downhill bowling ball. I mean,
it's like, totally what they need too. They have this dynamic satellite back plus in Chase Brown, who was miscast in an every down role. Now they can cast them in the roles they were both built for. It's perfect. And they're operating in the highest scoring offense in the league. This is exactly what we want.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a good
Brooks
discussion.
is a
But
team
anyway,
captain. Brooks is reliable.
but see, it's like,
There's not going to be issues with like, oh, well, I mean, I'm not saying there's not going to be issues. There could be issues. We could see in preseason Taj Brooks at the NFL level has ball security issues. This is why we have to pay attention. But I don't foresee that happening. It could. I expect Taj Brooks to command at least 25% of the touches, if not
no, I
more.
get it. And I totally understand what you were saying about like, because just not drafting, you're just not drafting these guys. I'm not taking a Emeka Egbuka as high as I'm going to need to take him to be able to get him. I'm not going to take Luther Burden as high as I'm going to need to be able to get him. Like, and then when I get down to the Jaden Higginses of the world and the Jalen Knowles and the Trey Harrises and the Jack Beshes, like I'm taking Jaden Blue, who's going to be he's going to win the job in Dallas. I'm taking Scadaboo. I'm taking,
If you're drafting on DraftKings right now, according to Ball is Life FF in the chat, if you're drafting on DraftKings, the draft expires through round 20 and there is no Taj Brooks selected, which is absolutely absurd. I think by the end of the summer, he's going to be like, what, 12th round pick?
Well, you know how much it'll depend on the training camp news, right? Like we'll be like,
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think if we're setting the bar, if we're setting the line, I'd set the line at round 12, where if there's big buzz in training camp, he could get juiced up to round 9.
Yeah, right. So I think probably that's a maybe. Well, I mean, yeah, if there's big buzz, of course,
but yeah, we see this all the time. These guys with buzz that have roles like tailor made for them.
Mm-hmm.
No, boosted up to round 9, just based on, hey, this guy is a handcuff with the most contingent upside of anyone on the board, and he has some standalone value, scoring touchdowns in that offense as the between the tackles back, the best between the tackles back that they have.
Yeah. And so I just like when you get to the Taj Brookses of the world and this is after I think the Scadaboos and the Jaden Blues, Bashal Tootin, Dylan Sampson, all these guys.
Are you sure you're going Sampson over Brooks?
Sampson over Taj Brooks. Yeah, I'm like personally, like I don't prefer taking Sampson, but you can remind me if I'm wrong, but those ADPs are very I'm doing it from I'm looking at it from a perspective of where I can, I could probably get them both.
That's right. Well, we technically, if you look at our rankings, we do have Sampson ahead of Brooks, but the lifetime value rating is very, very similar. Like they are adjacent.
But what I'm saying is sometimes when I get down to this area where I'm tempted at times to like after Brooks is off the board and guys like Jordan James and stuff, maybe even Devin Neal or Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who landed pretty well in Washington. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not taking Dante Thornton or Keandre Lambert-Smith or even guys I like Torrey Horton. It's like you're going to have to get down to guys, you're going to have to be getting down to running backs in this class that are undrafted.
No, there's no. You have to go running back. They have clear paths to secure huge gains and accrue massive dynasty value as early as training camp.
Yeah.
As early as training camp, remember, it's not just when the season starts, it's when the training camp buzz starts. Rookie camp is around the corner. Rookie camp's coming right up. And there's going to be buzz, and there's going to be big-time buzz, and there's going to be all these reports coming out about how much Coach X loves running back Y that was drafted in the 5th round. Jaden Blue, or the 4th round, Woody Marks, or the 6th round, Taj Brooks, or the 7th round, Brashard Smith.
Your Brashard Smith stuff. Like
Devin Neal, how much the Saints coaches love Devin Neal. They feel like they got a steal on Devin Neal in the 6th round.
Yep. And then Kendre Miller looks like he's headed for Bustville, and there's no way they're paying Alvin Kamara with whatever that 2026 number, $30 million or whatever. It's
Kamara's done. Kamara's gone.
Yeah.
Devin Neal is looking at a huge role next year.
Yeah. So it's like it's really hard. I agree with you. It's really hard to just say, okay, well I'm gonna go ahead and. I mean, we like where like Jalen Royals landed. We like Torrey Horton as a prospect. You know what I mean? With like these,
The
it's not
only
saying
receiver I could think that I could conceivably draft, I wouldn't. Okay, like I said, like once Golden is off the board, if I'm at the 1-2 turn, once Golden is off the board, I'm closing the book on the receiver position. Unless, here's the case. If I have, and I do have, this is real. I have, in some leagues, I have 3 third-round picks because over the last, 2 years, just accumulating third-round picks, hey, on principle, I'm flipping player X, I'm flipping player Y, I'm flipping player Z. Well, what are you getting back? What are you getting back? Well, in some cases, a third rounder. And so in some of these leagues, you end up with 3 third rounders. If I have 3 third rounders and Jalen Noel is there,
that's
and
fine.
Jalen Noel slips to the 3rd round, I'm interested. I'm your Huckleberry at that point. But I need to at least make sure I've drafted Bashal Tutin. At least make sure I have locked in a Woody Marks, a Dylan
You're
Sampson.
saying as long as the opportunity cost isn't baked in, right?
Because as long as I've got my running backs locked in, and this is a luxury pick. If it's a luxury pick and I can't flip it, right? Because oftentimes I'm trying to flip my third rounders for second rounders next year. If I can't do any creative flipping of the pick, and I'm not going to be able to pass on Jalen Noel in the 3rd round. I'm just not, because this is what happens. Players get drafted in the 3rd round in the NFL draft, and then they inevitably fall to the 3rd round in dynasty rookie drafts, especially Superflex. And those players become interesting. Nico Collins was a 3rd round pick. Tank Dell was a hit in the 3rd round. Hopefully you flipped him. Jalen Noel won't likely hit this year, but he has a full season to go head to head with Jaden Higgins and potentially come out on top. And he is a better complement, a more natural complement at Z to Nico Collins than Higgins.
Or slot. I mean, but it's like I know the slot's kind of taken care of right now with Christian Kirk, but
for now,
yeah, man. I mean, Jalen Noel's got some Amon-Ra St. Brown to him, dude. He's definitely got some dog to him. Like I'd be line that guy up anywhere, dude. He's gonna go play football. So yeah, I totally 100% agreed, man. I think
why wasn't he better after the catch?
What was he? Was it particularly bad? Was it like was it brutal? I mean, I know his yards per route run wasn't particular. It wasn't like off the charts bad.
Well, the reason why he's great at the catch point, he's a great separator, but the lack of yak is what held back his yards per route run in college.
It wasn't. It was 2.54. I mean, it's just not miserable, but it's
pretty bad for a player with his profile. He profiles as a Deebo Samuel type player after the catch, so he has explosiveness. He's getting separation. It may be just one of those things where we know he has a high toughness rating. So I think it's just variance. It's very possible that just on any given play, defenders had great angles on him, and he just couldn't quite shake free. Where you run it back, right, and you replay the season, and split second here, split second there, he has a little more space, and he's off to the races. And then one big play after the catch tilts all those stats, right? If you have one catch and run for 60 yards, it tilts all those yak stats for the full season.
Yeah, and especially whenever you're a guy that does have the play style of him, where it's like he's always looking for a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing. His play style, it screams yak player. It screams this guy's going to give you good yards after the catch per target on a season-to-season basis.
It could be these guys out there picking those fights, and he's just kind of losing them. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, man. It's like it wasn't for some reason that wasn't a metric that popped up as a con on the old pros and cons list for me. So I haven't given it much much thought. I think that your explanation makes plenty of sense, though.
Tootin, though, you love Tootin. You want Tootin, right? Second round, you can push the button on Tootin.
Sure. I mean, I'm a little, yeah. In the second round, it's fine.
Okay.
I think I like him. I've just him and Dylan Sampson. I kind of think about in the same bucket.
No.
I think about, well, I take Tootin before Sampson, but I do.
Tootin is on a team that it is going to have no running back talent next year. Tootin is on a glide path to be a workhorse in 2026, if not earlier. He's better than Tank Bigsby. And Travis Etienne has just not, right? Something is off. Like he had that one season where we're like, oh, Clemson, Travis Etienne is here in the NFL. We did it. And no. So I just think this is the offense that now has Travis Hunter. There's going to be plenty of space and room for him to run. They can invest in the offensive line. They've got the skill positions wrapped and locked and loaded. It feels very good. Everything longer term, but even some short term contingent upside is there for Tootin.
Yeah, the reason I like Tootin. I mean, I like him for a couple reasons. One, I mean, I have him ranked as my 10th running back 10 and just an epic good class. So I mean, I've really liked him through the process, right? And then the other reasons, of course, you mentioned it. I think what does he weigh? Does he weigh 208 something? I forgot what it is. 206. Do you have him pulled up on Player Profiler?
Yeah, it's like 206.
Okay. But we know the 4.32 speed. What is your best comp on Player Profiler?
You don't want to know.
Is it?
Because I don't think you're high enough on them. You don't want to know.
Okay. Well,
this is another blast from the past comp. Similar. This is very similar.
Yeah, we have CJ Spiller as one of our comps. We have David Wilson, CJ Spiller, DeAndre Washington, Justin Forsett, a little bit of Darrell Henderson to him.
Yeah, David Wilson's in there for sure.
CJ Spiller is a good comp. I think that could be a good player, especially whenever I'm growing so wary of Travis Etienne, and I've always thought that Tank Bigsby sort of stinks. I mean,
there's a Tank Bigsby hive, though.
I know, and they
came after me last year.
They came after me last year whenever it got clipped that I said he's the worst running back he's the worst running back I've ever seen.
He is a hardworking running back that runs to contact, and when he runs to contact and he happens to break a tackle, he looks good doing it. That is true. And that has been, the Jag running back go-to move since I started in this business was run to contact, look good breaking a tackle, and fantasy gamers will overrate you.
Yeah. I've always been out on Tank. I'm starting to be out on ETN. It's like, you can't sell ETN for anything right now. So if you have him in Dynasty, it's just, it's just one of these things where you got to ride into the sunset with the guy and just hope against hope that we get. I don't know what I didn't know.
Let me ask you a question. Put it this way. If you can't get anything for ETN, you can't get anything for Tank Bigsby, right? But Quinshon Judkins is a top 10 pick.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, Quinshon Judkins is a top 10 pick. And you can't get anything for these other running backs in Jacksonville. How is it a debate between Sampson and Tootin?
Well, like I said, I take Tootin ahead of Sampson, but I think that it's like I have them in I have Scattaboo and Jaden Blue in a kind of a bucket just above those guys, and the bucket I have those two in is just right underneath them.
Really?
That's all. Yeah.
I wish we got to do some kind of bet on Tootin versus Scattaboo.
Would you do
I would
one
love
on
to do some kind of bet with you because I just think that's ridiculous.
Okay, well, let's do a bet.
I think that Tyrone Tracy represents better longer term competition on a worse team.
Do you want us to do PPR fantasy points?
Yeah.
In 20. Okay, so let's do that, and we should just have it be a loser has to like.
We'll do one of us. One of us has to do the Content King shirtless.
Ugh. You gotta be kidding.
with pasties on our nipples.
Dude, that would be clipped for all time, man. We can't do anything that people could think is sort of that this could lead us into our next. I like to stay kind of non-controversial.
Okay. Can I take you behind the curtain here?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is agree to this and then forget all about it.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yeah, I would rather
agree to it. We're going to agree to it, and then no one will bring it up.
You saying we got
if someone brings it up in the chat, we'll put it up on the chat and we'll laugh about it. We're like, oh yeah, remember that?
Weird things on the nipples.
Yeah, remember that? And they're like, but you guys said. No. But you guys said. I'm like, yeah, well, you say a lot of things.
There's certain things that should be kept. I just feel like there are certain things that should be kept private whenever you're a fantasy football or any kind of
male nipple.
Oh, it's just like with wearing a pasty on it, dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're super sensitive about the nipples and you're
super sensitive, it feels weird. It feel weird to do it. Like I don't want to do a show topless.
Yeah, I mean, I get you're super conservative, and those nipples are for one person and one person only, your wife, and I get it. I get it, man. You're a bit of a prude. No problem. No problem. Right? No, we'll move on. I get it. I think that doesn't quite finish the conversation about rookie running backs, because if you're in round 5, there are some rookie running backs that we haven't talked about. So let's just go through it real quick. We talked about Jarquez Hunter, Kyle Monangai. He's interesting, right? And we have some of these guys that landed as undrafted free agents. Raheem Sanders. We know you don't like Raheem Sanders because he has small calves. Munnings landed in Tennessee. Yarns landed in New Orleans. That's interesting. So 5th round Yarns. Larison landed in New England.
I thought Yarns was a UDFA to New Orleans.
That's what I'm saying. These guys that weren't drafted, they were UDFAs. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right? Raheem Sanders, UDFA to the Chargers.
Yes. I'm sorry. Donovan Edwards, UDFA was he the Jets?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's not going to make the roster. But Yarns to New Orleans, is that the most interesting UDFA, or is there another one?
No.
Because even Phil Maffa got drafted.
The most interesting UDFA is Xavier Restrepo to the Titans with Cam Ward. But as far as running back,
I mean, anytime you can get your college buddy and if he can just make the team, he just needs to make the team. That's all he needs to do is make the team, and he's going to get snaps and run routes.
Cam Ward made him the all-time leading stat leader in every statistic for the Miami Hurricanes, and we're talking about, you can't even start to list how many sick wide receivers that they've had. Man, it's just crazy. Talk about a built-in connection. I think about the. Let me just look. Okay, so.
Montrell Johnson signed with the Eagles.
With Philly, yeah. So, and then Sanders, Rockets. Yeah, so was Khalil Mullings, he was actually drafted by Tennessee, right?
Well, that's a good question.
I think
Mullings was drafted by Tennessee in round 6.
Okay. So, yeah, I think Yarns is the most interesting undrafted free. Marcus Yarns from Delaware is the most interesting undrafted free agent from this, even though this situation is not great, but it opens up next year where it could be a Devin Neal, Marcus Yarns type of, you know what I mean? Some kind of newish looking committee as they're trying to, who knows what it all looks like next year. Could be Tyler Shuck coming into year 2. Could be something where they're just continuing the rebuild. And we know that when you're trying to do these rebuilds, which is what they're trying to do right now, it's very important to have cheap running backs, right? So these are guys
that's it. I mean, normally you hate Judkins going to a complete rebuild roster. It's not great. It's bad for his touchdown equity. But if it's a UDFA, you're just looking for touches. You're just looking for a guy that's going to make the team. And so in that case, you want that.
Yeah. I agree, man.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I guess, Chubb to Chicago. Do you think that's happening? Has that been announced yet? Or is that just still, why is that still in rumor mode and not done yet?
I mean, am I the only one, like Cody and Byron and Trash Man and our text are like talking about this so much? I'm just like, I kind of get the text. I'm like, why do we care?
Because Chubb isn't dead yet. Chubb's only 29. He's probably close to fully recovered from the knee injuries. He's had multiple knee injuries. He's not the same player. He didn't look bad last year. He had a bad offensive line, so he couldn't look good in the context of that offense.
We just care about it for Roschon Johnson's sake. Is that all?
We care about it for Roschon Johnson because if Chubb doesn't go to Chicago, then Roschon Johnson is going to have a role. He could be the third down back at the very least, and then be getting a lot more touches inside the 20 than anyone is ready for. You know, if he dominates Swift in camp, and that's not hard to do because DeAndre Swift is, he's not putting in full effort in camp, then you can absolutely see, again, a new coaching staff coming in and being like, oh, this guy is a much better all-around player, and he cares a lot more, and he's more trusted in all these different situations. Yeah, he's not quite as dynamic, but Swift has been leaking dynamism for years. So they've really converged. The two of these guys have converged on the dynamism front and in the efficiency. Now Swift has become like a volume play more than an efficiency play like he was previously. So it's become. I'm pretty interested in Roschon, and I'm happy to truther him. Everyone needs truthers. We're always looking for truthers. Who are our truthers this year? And as of right now, Roschon's top of the list of truthers for me.
Huh. That's fair. I think it'll be interesting to see how Ben Johnson reacts to DeAndre Swift and how he views him, whether he views him leaking dynamism. Because I've noticed it. I think it's hard not to notice.
How do you not notice it? He's not putting the work in. If you're skipping leg day for your entire career, eventually you're not going to be as explosive. And we know that DeAndre Swift has skipped leg day every single day there's been a leg day.
Well,
when the strength and conditioning coach is putting up the schedule, do you think that he's taking a picture with his phone, or do you think he's walking right by it?
Yeah, I look, man, I can't. I don't have a leg to stand on here. I skip leg day all the time. I hate leg day. It's the worst. It's so bad, right? It's the
okay. So we're not talking about you.
Yeah,
we're talking about.
Look,
Swift,
like Ben
vis-a-vis Roschon Johnson, vis-a-vis Chubb.
Ben Johnson's going to be able to see. But man, I asked him at the combine about Swift. He loves Swift. He says that he's seen him be a force for in his offense. So he's worked
because
with him.
He had Swift in Detroit.
Yeah. But I mean, we're starting to talk with 3-4 years. So like, we're starting to talk a little bit of time here. So
you mean Detroit, the same team that told Swift to kick rocks.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking that we'll find out real quick what he thinks about whether or not the dynamism is leaked. What I'm saying is I don't think there's any way you can miss it. But
I don't think you can miss it. It's a plausible scenario that Roschon Johnson just outperforms Swift in camp.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean it's plausible. I think it's also worth noting that. I think that everybody hates DeAndre Swift now. Everybody, and best ball, everything. I think it's gotten to the point where he might represent a little bit of a value, honestly.
But in Dynasty, it's nothing to acquire both Swift and Roschon Johnson. And as long as you think that Roschon has more juice than Chubb at this point, Chubb came into the league with a hell of a lot more juice than Roschon, but at this point in their respective careers. Because Roschon Johnson's injuries have been more above the waist, so I think lower body wise is in great shape. I can see just Chubb not being as explosive as even Roschon anymore. If he signs and he shows up in camp. You love Roschon. Like, let's get on board with this.
No, I'm totally like I buy it. I'm buying what you're putting out there. Like I said, I don't really care about the Chubb thing. If he comes back and he shows me that he's going to be fine again after another one of these surgeries and all this stuff, like I love Nick Chubb. I think he's a great dude. I've loved him as a prospect. I love Nick Chubb, right? Right? I just think sometime. I mean, at some point, I think it's over.
Yeah, I think it's probably over. Isn't it probably over?
Yes, it's like
29 years old.
I mean, it's like Cody the other day, for what it might have been yesterday, it might have been last week. I don't even know. Like he's saying, like, well, we still got to wait to see where Leonard Fournette lands. I'm like, Leonard Fournette. I'm like, can we just not call? Like, what are you going to ask me next about Todd Gurley that sits next to me on Radio Row at SEC Media Days? It's like looks like he's put on 35 pounds. Like, we're going to talk about it at some point. These guys.
Well, has Frank Gore signed yet?
I'm just like, we're really waiting on Leonard Fournette. Like, did you know? I guess Zeke plays for the Chargers. I guess Zeke is on the Chargers active roster. Looks like he's on the Chargers active roster. Stuff like this. But, I mean, it's like we can't do anything until we find out where Dalvin signed.
Get out of here.
We can't make any fantasy moves until we know about Dalvin. We're still waiting for the big shoe to drop.
Okay. If you like this, like the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, like the show if you like it. Comment on it if there's a sleeper that we missed, because I know Monangai's out there too. I think you can hoard this entire Chicago backfield. Monangai, Swift, Roschon at a very affordable price, and if the offense takes a big step forward, just forget Chubb. Just assume Chubb is dust and acquire the other 3 running backs. That's the move. And let us know if there's a take that you have on a particular rookie running back. Put it in the comments. Like the show if you enjoyed it. And share the podcast with someone. Find someone, if you like this podcast, find someone to share it with. Now, you and I love Josh Larkey. Josh Larkey has been one of my favorite people in this business. I met him at the MIT Sports Analytics Conference. We just happened to be sitting together, and I love what he had to say. He was super interested in advanced stats and metrics in sports and in fantasy, and he had lots of theories about fantasy and how could be applied to improve fantasy teams and strategies. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy's great. I hire him, and he took off. Like, his follower count on Twitter X was like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. And he was a great brand advocate for Player Profiler for many years. And he's very ambitious. He decided to leave. It was one of the more upsetting moments I've had in running the company because I just wasn't ready for it. And it took me by surprise. Most time people leave and I kind of can feel it coming. I can feel that they're ready for something else. I didn't see that one coming. And I wished him all the best. And he found his dream job ultimately after a couple tries. He found his dream job at the 33rd team. And they ended up like just dissolving his fantasy group there. And that was heartbreaking. And I'm not sure he's ever gotten over it. Imagine putting all that sweat equity into building up a whole team and a whole set of products. And then as soon as you feel like it's well dialed, they immediately just hit the delete button. That has to be super devastating because you have a choice. You can either go and start your own company and put in all that sweat equity and all that capital that goes into that, starting from zero. For, like me, I worked for years building this up, not making any money. Yeah. Or you can partner with someone who runs a business and do the deal that Josh did with the 33rd team, which was the perfect deal, where you don't necessarily have to put in all that sweat equity and you don't have to work for free for a number of years, but you get to build something. And if I'm in Josh's shoes, it's a demoralizing place to be when that gets pulled unceremoniously. and now, he's no longer really delivering fantasy analysis. And I'm getting emails from people, hey, you need to talk to Larky. He's gone full
He's going off the
politics.
deep end. He's
Yeah. And I'm like, listen, man, Josh Larky is a friend of mine. I've, hung out with him on many occasions. He's been to the draft house with us. I went with my daughter to meet up with him at the San Diego Zoo and had a great afternoon with him. I like the guy a lot, and he's going to do what he does. He is a unique individual, and I want him to be the best person he can be. And if he feels like analyzing politics is better for him, either it provides more total engagement, it provides more enjoyment, whatever it is, then I'm not going to tell him how to run his Twitter account. Nor am I going to tell him, oh, you need to remove any reference to Fast Draft or Player Profiler because now you're tweeting primarily about politics. I'm not going to do that. And if anyone thinks, thinking about playing on Fast Draft, but I saw this guy that had some political take that I disagree with, had Fast Draft in his bio, so therefore I'm not going to sign up. I mean, you need to show me that person, because in the last 20 years, I've seen a lot of people threaten to leave a lot of platforms or not engage with certain platforms or not use particular products because of some analysis they disagreed with, or because some person is platformed by that particular brand. And every single time it is a lie. It is fake posturing. So I am not going to risk my personal relationship with someone just because there is the theoretical risk that a person might not play fantasy football on Fast Draft because they disagree with Josh Larky.
Yeah. What would you do if you was still like working for Player Profile though? Would you be like, man, you should for me, people that work at my company, I just say if you you can't tweet anything about politics, man. I'm sorry. It's like just don't tweet it out. I'm sorry. It's like if it can, it's too divisive these days, man. It just feels like if you do
I'll
that
read it.
stuff.
I have a social media guidelines document that I send to people that are working with us. And Josh Larky is not
He's not working with you anymore.
affiliated with our brand other than he likes Fast Draft and he wants to promote it whenever he has the opportunity. And of course, anyone that likes our product and wants to talk about it, why would I prevent that from happening? So my advisory to people that actually are producing content for us for money is that our social media team encourages you to be part of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. But if you choose to reference Player Profiler in your social media profile or Fast Draft in your social media profile, we suggest that you avoid mean-spirited or threatening comments, polarizing political posts, and embedding individual athlete social media handles in the content, especially when it is critical of that athlete.
No, that's a good. That's one you shouldn't even have to point out. But golly, of course you don't do that.
Of course you need to point this out. You absolutely have to point this out. So no mean-spirited or threatening comments, no polarizing political posts, and no criticizing athletes directly on social media. That's it. Those are the three things that I tell our content creators. Please don't do this on social media. That's it. Those are our guidelines. I think those are fair guidelines. I don't think they're over the top. I don't think that they're too soft. I think that it's just right. What do you think?
No, I think it's fine, man. For me, it's like who knows what somebody thinks is polarizing. I just say just stay away from it, man. So it's bad. It's bad for business. It's just bad. It's bad. It's toxic stuff. it's like people get at each other's throats. And I do think that there are some people out there that would say, man, I'm not signing up for that site because they're this side or they're this side or whatever. Like, I stay out of it, dude. We're here to talk football and do fantasy and all the rest. And I was just asking about Larky earlier. I'm just like, man, like probably like you got these other emails from him. I'm like, dude, I have to unfollow the guy on Twitter because it's like I'd engaged with him so much about fantasy stuff. You know what I mean? In the past, and I know him, and we DM with each other because we've been at the draft house and stuff. And so I think the algorithm thinks that I want to hear everything he has to say, and so it's like it just pops me up every reply, everything. And now he's making these videos and doing all this stuff, and I think it's fine that he's doing.
He's making political videos.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, see, I'm not on Twitter X as much, and for whatever reason, it doesn't surface those things to me very much. So I haven't noticed. The bottom line is, I wonder if you want to be a content creator, a public-facing content creator, then you need to decide what content gives you the most happiness and what content gives you the most reach and engagement. And if you enjoy talking politics and also your political posts get more reach and engagement, then you need to run that math and go, okay, I should pivot from being primarily a fantasy football analyst to primarily a political analyst. But if that's not the case, if actually you're getting more engagement on your fantasy posts, but your political posts are actually creating a drag on that, then you need to have a reckoning and decide either I need to split my accounts, I need to stop posting about politics publicly because it's not getting the engagement and traction that I want, and it's hurting the topics that are actually creating goodwill in the industry, creating positive relationships. Then you need to make that decision accordingly. But again, there's a lot of fame, success, money out there in the political analysis world. And if Josh thinks that this is an area where he can add value, where he has a unique take on whatever issue is currently live, and he's getting engagement and he's seeing his audience grow, then he should go in that direction. Then he should 100% go in that. That's a business decision. So I would have no criticism of someone who decides, I'm at this level in fantasy sports, but because there's a lot more people that care about politics than there are about fantasy sports, and I have some unique, insightful political analysis to offer the world, I'm going to go in this direction, and I can have more clout, and I can make a bigger impact going in this direction, then go in that direction. As long as you enjoy it. If the two topics are on par in terms of your enjoyment, then go in the direction that leads to more engagement, reach, and ultimately revenue. Perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable to do that. And why would I criticize that?
I'm not criticizing it either. I was curious to you about what you thought his plans were and what you would do if he was still working at Player Profiler and partaking in political activism. It was just interesting to hear what you would do. Well,
that is an interesting question. So again, we have this document, like from a human resources standpoint, we have the bare minimum human resources here at Player Profiler and Fast Draft, but this is one of those bare minimum documents that I read that we have on file that we share with staff because it is necessary. And anyone that is building a business like this, that is something that, especially if you have a lot of public-facing content creators, you want to have a social media advisory and guidelines available to them. So yes, if he were still our head of analytics, oh, no. You can't. No, of course not. That's not. No, he's made a decision. Like I said, he's made a decision to be a fantasy football analyst first, and that's the primary place where he needs to add value, or he would want to. If that's his profession, then he would naturally want to add value in the fantasy football realm and not risk the engagement by muddling his whole persona with a whole other industry that's not related to fantasy football. That would be bad business. It would be bad business for us, and it would be bad business for him if his goal were to be a fantasy football analyst full-time professionally. But that's just not what he is anymore. He worked at Sleeper. He was at 33rd Team, FTN here. The guy had an incredible run. He added a lot of value to these businesses. Certainly, I am forever in debt to the great work he did here. But now his full-time job is no longer in fantasy football. And if he still has the desire to be a full-time content creator at some point in the future, he may have made the decision. I have not talked to him about this, but it's very plausible that he's made the strategic decision that his path forward is to become a political content creator, and he's making that full pivot.
Yeah, it's a hard pivot, and he's definitely made it. So,
I should ask him about it, because I did not know he had made the full pivot. But if you're saying that he's replying to political discussions with
constantly, dude,
fully produced like political takes in video format.
Yeah, that he's sitting in front of his mic, that he was normally giving you a take about how not to draft Rachaad White. Now he's talking to you about tariffs, and it's like, it's just wild, man. So I don't know. I found it super. It's been the Josh Larkey hard pivot to politics.
Well, now that he's no longer with Player Profiler and Fast Draft, I would find it fascinating to see how it goes. Like, this is an interesting case study about someone who decides, hey, I'm going to pivot from sports to politics. Wasn't there another person that did this, that like joined Fox?
Clay Travis from
Clay Travis did this, right? So Clay Travis has created the path, right? Because wasn't his company Outkick the Coverage?
Jason Whitlock is kind of like that.
Okay, I'm not as familiar with Jason Whitlock, but I know this Clay Travis had this company Outkick the Coverage, right?
Yeah. A couple of guys have kind of been a little bit like that. Yeah, no, it's Outkick. I don't think it's Outkick. It might be Outkick the Coverage. I think it's just Outkick.com. But now he has
all right. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I live in a very tight bubble, right? Where like I'm not even aware of how deep Larkey has gone with his political analysis.
Yeah, I think you'd be interested just go look at his X feed.
I will. Again, I haven't talked to him in a while, and so I should catch up with him, and that'll be part of it, is kind of refamiliarizing myself with where he's at. And I'm curious. I mean, I wish him all the best. Apart from whatever his opinions are, I just wish him all the best. I want him to have success because, again, he worked very hard and he did great work for us. And so I will forever want him to have success in life. And if that is a political pivot, then that's what it is.
Yo, man, speaking of pivots, I don't know. It's like I just opened up this comment section, I can't tell if this is right, but is there a super chat that we might have missed?
No, I didn't miss it. It's Cameron Myers. I've been staring right at it.
Oh, okay. I can't tell on mine. It's like I'm not used to this program. I didn't even know we could pull up comments. But I think there might be one.
There is. You finally found the comments. This is Ecamm that we're using, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't used it much except for when we do.
It's great. Yeah, it's from Cameron Myers. I'll put it up on the screen here. And he says, "It's the dream team here. Do we think all the running backs will be gone by the time picks 112 and 201 come up? 12 teams, super flex, full PPR. Thank you for the best content in the industry." Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Again, it's mostly football. It's mostly football. And even in this particular case, when we are technically talking politics, it's within the context of a
We're
fantasy
not
football
we're not
analyst that
talking politics.
we all know, or most of us are aware of, and a context shift that he's currently trying to execute, and we'll see how
We're
that
talking about
goes.
somebody who's making a
But
pivot to
yeah,
politics.
for
We're not
just
talking
to wrap up
politics.
that topic before we answer Cameron's question, you would have the same approach that I would. Like, you would immediately approach an analyst that was posting about politics with a roster watch in their bio and explain why that's not appropriate.
It's like you can't do it. It's like people really, you know, I've just noticed, man, lately, do people just really people get their heckles up, dude, and they just why would you want to do that? Why would you? It's like a lot of this stuff's 50-50 stuff, man. You might piss off 50% of your like we're in this deal to get subscribers and make some money, man. Like we're not experts in this stuff. We don't know what's going. Like what do you know what we're experts in? It's these tools these tools that we've spent well over a decade developing. It's with this rookie draft class that we've spent our time and our treasure to go make sure that we're at the events and that we're talking to the right people and developing the right relationships. And like, this is where we're experts. Like nobody cares what I have to say about any of this stuff. Even if I knew what it was, no one cares my opinion. They care about our opinions on this. That's why they come to our website and they pay us $8.99 a month or something like that. And we want to keep them coming to do it, but they're not going to do it if they feel like there's somebody that's like, that guy, I don't like him because he doesn't agree with me politically. It's like, you can't do it. It's like, it's just, you can't do it. I would be super tilted. And I don't even have a form that I give them beforehand. I figured that anybody that would come work at my company were smaller than you, but they would just understand that that's like, it's an idiotic thing to do. It's like,
right. If you are representing us and you are potentially creating content that will generate animosity, then you're hurting our ability to reach more people and help more people with their fantasy team. And that's counterproductive.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all that is. That's the reason why we have that particular social media advisory and guidelines, and why it's not something that I think any fantasy brand or any sports content or other content brand would think is kosher. It's not. So that's why. It's not about the ability to speak your mind and all those things. I mean, if it's just, hey, I need the ability to speak my mind, I need an outlet. Like, I have anxiety, and me putting this out there in the digital world has some sort of positive effect,
then get a burner account.
Then you have to set up a different account that has no affiliation with your professional brand.
But I'd recommend not even doing that, dude. You're going to make yourself miserable if you. But anyway,
well, John Paulson's a great example. John Paulson was the first person to do this, where he had two accounts. He had a fantasy football account and he had a politics account. He did this many years ago. We're talking about like 8 years ago. John Paulson for 4 for 4, I know, set this. He was the first person that did that. And I think he did it on his own recognizance. I don't think that it's something that like the superior asked him to do. I just think it was like he knew this was common sense. That if this was a satiating thing for him to get this out there in the world, to get these opinions out there in the world somehow, some way, that it would be counterproductive to commingle it with fantasy football content.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah. So I mean, I still would say, man, you're still playing a little bit with fire because somebody could discover, even if they weren't following you for that, they could just, that one of your tweets from your political account could get retweeted onto their timeline, and they could be like, oh, this guy is the guy I don't agree with. I'm not buying his product. But look, it is what it is. I just think it's dumb to, like you said, counterproductive is the best way to put it, period.
Look at Clay Travis is a great example, right? I mean, if he is spending half of his time doing sports and half of his time doing politics, none of his analysis is worth a damn. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. We are in a competitive industry. Politics is a competitive industry, and sports is a competitive industry. We're spending all of our time in sports in order to create a product and find information that we can share that is helpful. That is a full-time job. And it's
Yeah.
also a full-time job to add that level of value in the political sphere. And if you're splitting your time between these two places, you're going to end up producing content that's not helpful to anybody.
No, that's actually a really good point. that's another side of it. To me, I don't even. I just think about it from the money angle. But I mean,
Right.
that's still good.
I mean, what if LeBron wanted to play football, right? And he was splitting his time 50-50 between the NFL and the NBA. Would that have been a good career choice?
No, well,
Horrible.
I've always wanted to see it, but
I've wanted to see it. We've wanted to selfishly see it as an experiment.
Yeah, but
I think focusing on basketball was the right decision.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good it would. He acts like it would just. It's a lock that it would have gone really, really well, and that it still maybe could.
I love thinking about it. It's a terrific thought experiment, but it would never have happened because it would have been so irrational to do that. So irrational. So let's talk about Cameron Meyer's question. 12-team Superflex, and you're at the 112-201.
Right.
Okay, that's his question. What are you doing? Basically, he didn't want to ask it this way, and I understand why people don't want to ask it this way. What exactly would you do at the 112-201? And it is a very tricky thing because you're hoping that Golden makes it there. That's what you're hoping. You're hoping that RJ Harvey makes it there or Caleb Johnson makes it there. My guess is in the most efficient leagues possible, yes, it goes like Henderson at the 105 and Golden at the 111, and everyone in between is all the guys that you wanted at the 112, and you're stuck. I understand there's a situation where you could be stuck at the 112. I don't think that's what's going to happen. Your league mates will make mistakes in front of you, and they will leave you Johnson because he was a third-round pick. They may leave you Harvey because they don't appreciate him, even though he was a second-round pick. There's still some anchoring to where he was pre-draft. And then there's Matthew Golden, who this is just where he typically goes, and he can easily slip a slot. Someone could look at Igbuka and be like, hey, Igbuka, if there's a rebuild team somehow has the 111, they may think that Igbuka longer term is in a great spot with Baker Mayfield and prefer him over Golden. Then you get Golden at the 112. But then what are you doing at the 201? Are you going Jackson Dart? Are you going Colston Loveland? Are you going Bashal Tootin? Like I think that's the decision point.
No, I'm not going to. Dude, what is? So you hate Scatterboo?
I'm not going Cam Scatterboo at the 201. There's no way.
All right, look, I'm not
doing that, man. I'm not doing that. If it's tight end premium, then I think.
Can I just talk through my thing? If it's tight end premium, you're not going to be having to consider Bashal Tootin, Cam Scatterboo, Jaden Blue, any of those guys. Because you're
right. If it's tight end premium, Loveland will go top 12, and you'll definitely get Golden, and you may be able to get Harvey and Golden in tight end premium. That's the dream.
Or Caleb. I mean, no. Well, the dream is to get Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey.
Okay, that is the dream of all dreams. That is in tight end premium. That's a great point. That is feasible.
You can. Well, I mean, I think. I mean,
have you seen that? Has anyone seen that? Put it in the chat. Has anyone seen tight end premium Superflex? Johnson, Harvey?
Vision. Yeah, here's the way to envision it. The draft, let's just say the draft goes off. Okay, Ashton Genty, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Hampton, Henderson, Tet, Quinshawn. And then people say, all right, well, now is where I have to pivot to, we're now at pick 8. So I'm going to go with one of the tight ends with like Colston Loveland, something like that. Some dude comes in and picks Emeka Egbuka with the 9. Somebody else takes Tyler Warren with the 10. And then with the 11, somebody takes Matthew Golden. And then you get RJ Harvey and Caleb Johnson.
Okay. That is the ultimate dream. Would you, let's say that's not possible. Okay. Would you go Loveland if it's not tight end premium? Would you go Loveland at the 201?
No.
Would you go Dart?
Superflex non-tight end premium?
Yeah.
I would go and Golden's off the board.
Yeah, let's say you drafted Golden at the 112.
Okay. So, yeah. I think I have to take Dart at the 2-1. And Superflex, gosh, it feels bad. It's like drafting a guy right there with one of your first 2 picks that's probably not going to play the first 8 weeks of the season.
Feels awful. We're clearly trying to trade back a few picks to get Tootin later in the second round. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to trade one of those picks to get back. I would try to trade back because the tier break is so devastating there.
It doesn't have to be Tootin. It can be Blue or it could be Scattaboo. I know you guys hate Scat, man. Y'all are going to see soon, man. He's going to be good. But yeah, I think
whatever. Yeah, we're fine. I'm fine with Scattaboo. I'm just saying, like you got to get out of that pick.
Yeah,
you got to hope. You got to hope your league mates make mistakes in front of you, and you can end up locking in a Golden Harvey, a Johnson Golden, a Johnson Harvey. That's the dream. And you're not going for Loveland. You're going for Dart if it all goes worst case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it. So what is his name? Cameron. Thank you for
tight end premium.
Thank you for the super chat, Cameron. But I think we just went through what the best case and the worst case would be. It's probably gonna be somewhere right in the middle.
In tight end premium, though. Okay, tight end premium. Would you consider Elijah Arroyo at like the 202?
No, I start considering Elijah Arroyo more at the 208.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yep.
For Alex Dunlap, I'm the Podfather. This was Content Kings, and I enjoyed it. Hope you did too. Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.